BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Russia has said it will drastically reduce military activity in the Kiev and Chernihiv regions of northern Ukraine following peace talks in Turkey. Russia's Deputy Defense Minister said the aim was to increase mutual trust. Ukraine's armed forces say Moscow is continuing its full-scale armed aggression. Danny Eberhard reports.
Peace talks in Istanbul earlier appeared to offer some progress, but many questions remain unanswered. Firstly, it's as yet unclear how extensive the reduction of Russian military activity in the Kiev and Chernihiv regions may be. The Ukrainian military says some individual units have been withdrawn. Secondly, Ukraine and its allies will want to assess in the days ahead whether what Russia labels a confidence-building measure can be taken at face value. Ukraine's proposals for peace centre around a stated willingness, and conditional on approval in a referendum, to renounce ambitions to join NATO in return for binding international security guarantees.
The Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has hailed what he called the positive signals from the day's talks, but said those signals did not drown out the explosions of Russian shells. He said Ukraine's army would not slacken its defensive efforts.
Не варто втрачати пильність. Ситуація не стала легше.
We should not lose vigilance. The situation has not become easier. The scale of the challenge has not decreased. The Russian army still has significant potential to continue attacks against our state. Some countries should not even expect that certain negotiations will affect the lifting of sanctions against the Russian Federation. The question of sanctions cannot even be raised until this war is over, until we get back what is ours and restore justice.
І поки ми не відновимо справедливість.
Moscow has accused Kiev of shelling a military camp in Russia's southwestern region of Belgorod, near the border with Ukraine. The report from the Russian news agency TASS came shortly after the governor of Belgorod said that there had been explosions in the village of Krasny Oktyabr. At least 4 people have been killed in a shooting in the Israeli town of Bnei Barak, the third such attack in a week. Police say the gunman was also shot dead. Israel's Prime Minister Naftali Bennett said his country was facing a wave of murderous attacks.
We are at the start of a challenging period. We've become experienced at facing terrorism since the beginning of Zionism. They didn't break us then, and they won't break us now. The secret of our existence is our solidarity and our determination to safeguard the home we have built, at any cost. Citizens of Israel, we shall prevail at this time too.
World News from the BBC. President Biden has signed into law the first federal legislation to make lynching a hate crime. Anyone convicted under the new law will face up to 30 years in prison. The bill is named after Emmett Till, a black teenager whose brutal killing galvanized the US civil rights movement in the 1950s. New data has found that for the first time, 10% of the world's electricity was generated by wind or solar power last year. But there was also a big increase in the amount of electricity generated from coal, as Matt McGrath explains.
As global economies rebounded from the COVID pandemic in 2021, demand for electricity soared. For the first time, wind and solar provided more than a tenth of overall demand. The Netherlands, Australia and Vietnam were among those countries switching rapidly to greener sources. But coal also bounced back, particularly in Asian countries, as the rapidly rising price of gas made the most carbon-intensive fuel more attractive. Scientists say that to keep the rise in global temperatures under 1.5 degrees Celsius this century, wind and solar need to grow by 20% every year from now to 2030.
The World Bank says it's put on hold 4 projects in Afghanistan amid concern over a decision by the Taliban not to allow girls to return to secondary education. The projects were to be financed through the Afghanistan Reconstruction Trust Fund. It requires its activities to support access to women and girls. More than $500 million of cryptocurrency has been stolen from a digital ledger used by players of the popular online game Axie Infinity. The game's makers were alerted when one user was unable to withdraw his money. The Ronin network blockchain had been targeted by hackers who appear to have got hold of private keys to withdraw digital funds. BBC News.